Today we're going to be showing you step by step how to build this fur lined leather pauldron. This is part 3 of the Joxer Cosplay series. Let's get started.
We're going to do another one of Joxer's pauldrons today. This is the leather pauldron with the fur attached. We're going to start with these two templates that are available for download. One is the pauldron itself, and two is a leather piece that attaches to it from the rear. They're both more or less basic leather. So cut out those two pieces out of 3mm approximate foam, and this piece is just a rough strip that was cut out of 2mm foam, just to give it some height and look like another piece of leather has been attached. So move those aside. We're going to start as usual by giving it a texture. In this case, we're going to use a texture stamp. You can use whatever type of texture you want. I just like this one. It's a stamp used for sculpting clay that I've adapted for this. So as usual, get our trusty board here, and we're just going to start texturing away using a heat gun. We're going to that's a lot of work, but you end up with a nice little texture. And this one that goes on there, you can have texture and a little bit of a layered effect. We're going to give them a painting, mostly dry brushing. We're just going to give them kind of a leathery look, making this raised part a little darker than this part, and then this a third color. All browns, but just off a bit so that they look like different pieces of leather. All right, now we're going to dry brush these three pieces. They're going to be the same. I'm going to start all of them with a dark brown, dark as you can find, and just going to try to give it a little texture. All right, there's a base color. I may do a really light another layer to this one. You want this one to be very light. Wipe off most of your paint, because I want this one to stay very dark. So I'm just going to go lightly over it. Alrighty. Now this one, I'm going to use the third brown. It's a lot like this one, but just a little brighter. That's called raw sienna. I'm going to do a very light dusting of a tan. All right. When you're done, you can end up with this here, and this kind of coming in like that. You just want to make sure you got a little bit of different tones just to bring them out. When you Mod Podge it, you'll bring a lot more of the color. Alrighty, now we're going to take the pauldron for the rabbit side, and we're going to add some rivets randomly around the end. We're just going to poke a hole and try to keep them at least even to start, and then kind of uneven afterwards, because the original ones should be even, and then the ones Joxer's modified later should be punched to make it look uneven. So we're just going to punch a hole and attach a rivet. I'm using 12mm rivets here. And I'm just going to go around fairly evenly around the... Alrighty, now I'm going to make a few uneven ones. Closer to this side is what will be seen from the front. In order to attach the fur, I want to have a place to do it, and you want the fur to kind of stick out a little bit. So what I've done is I've made another piece to go around the outside. It's about 2 inches. This was cut by eye, 2 inches all the way around, and we're going to glue this down right in the middle. Let that dry, and now we're going to be taking a piece of rabbit fur. Now, it's obviously too big, so and you want some dangling over the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in the middle, because the fur kind of goes off to the side on the right and on the left. That way it kind of flows down, and when you're attaching fur, you want to make sure the direction of the fur is kind of going outward. So we're going to cut down the middle. And we're going to literally start trying to glue this. Now we're going to try to cut it as we go. We're going to glue this down, trying to go along the edge here. So focus the most glue right along the edge. All right, now we're going to try to get this to continue from where we left off. Now we're going to leave a little overlap to make it look bushy, and we're going to do a little overlap. So we're going to try to cut this in that circle again. Now I'm using real rabbit's fur, but that's because I found it at a garage sale. So I collect things like that when I see them, but normally I would use fake fur if I was buying it. So we're going to do the same thing, but remember your overlap. Look out! Joxer! When I wear it and when I bend this over, I'm going to see how much I want to trim. I think it doesn't look too bad because the side, I don't mind it hanging over. So we'll have to wait and see. There's one last part, which we won't do because you kind of have to be at the right stage when you're assembling the whole thing. Now, Joxer has a piece of attached leather that is kind of bolted on here later. So it kind of goes like this, and then it's attached, so it'll hide some of these spots here, and you might need to put a rivet back here and it looks like it's riveted on. You're going to have to do this at the end, but basically you're just going to glue this on and rivet it where necessary. Might not even be important once you try your costume on, get it all assembled, then you can judge whether you need this or not. That's it for this time. Thanks for coming out.